day everyone. It's coming up to mid-March now and the weather has been typical of this time of the year, wet. Hopefully we'll see a sunny day eventually. Right, we'll take a look now today at Minas Tirith. It's written by Graham Staplehurst and it was published in 1988 by Iron Crown Enterprises, called I.C.E for short. And as you can see from the cover there, it has an illustration done by one Angus McBride, who became the go-to artist for I.C.E back in the day, and he depicted a lot of Middle-earth stuff on the covers of very many of the products they had there. And inside is also the illustration by Claire Danforth, who done a lot of cardboard portraits of the particular PCs that they found in each individual model and booklet. So what do you get for your hard-earned money? Well, you get the book, which is all 160 pages of it, but you also get a map. The map is depicted on both sides. On one side you get a depiction of the environment surrounding Minas Tirith, which you get Mordor, Bephalos, Lebanon and Minas Tirith and so on and so forth. And on the other side you get a map of the city itself, with the appropriate key down the far end of it. Inside the book you will get details of the flora and fauna of the city and the surrounding area, the pictures of the farmland surrounding Minas Tirith and also of the environment as well. It's an exhaustive book for that. Inside the city itself you get a lot of details of the particular characters work in the city, you know, the movers and shakers, the power and politics that you should have in every single one of these adventure line. They always have power and politics section there, and this is no different. You have stats for the major NPCs you are likely to meet in the course of working and moving around in the city. And you also have details of the guilds in the city. And certain parts of the city are detailed in quite an exhaustive way. Now, would I be using this adventure? No, because we have one of the major flaws of this particular book. There's the fact that the people who produced this book must have said to the writer Staplehurst, can you do a campaign book on Minas Tirith? And instead of that, he must have thought or heard, can he do a book on the buildings of Minas Tirith? And that is exactly what he's done. He's done a lot of the buildings in very exhaustive detail. In fact, he's done a lot of buildings. Most of this book is taken up with each individual house or structure within the city, from the lowest to the highest. And he puts quite a few details in there, quite densely too in some parts of it. Which is his major flaw really, because if you look at the other products from other companies, they would have had who's in an inn, the kind of characters you meet in the inn, the kind of adventure hooks you can have by meeting such characters, rumour tables, events going on in the city, streets and so on and so forth. None of this is really depicted in this at all. Just a man who loved buildings and decided to write about them. And there you get 160 pages. I mean, not all the pages are 160, there's sections here for adventures, but only amounts of 12 pages, so you know, which is not very much considering the amount of other stuff that's in here. You also get pages, as I said, of character stats quite exhaustively. There's about 8 or 9, 12 pages. Well, you see that, and behind me here. So that's where the main flaw lies. I mean, if you wanted to take a aspect of a city out of the model, a particular building for example, and put that into your adventure campaign or adventure, then you know what's to stop you, because there's certain buildings there that are quite interesting and could be useful if you wanted to do it that way. But the general whole of the place, running this in a campaign or Middle Earth and using this is just I would say a stopping off point then. In other words, you can sort of see Minas Tirith, get it roughly described, and then off you go somewhere else, because you're not going to get a huge amount of this book except for, as I said, the buildings. And if I wanted to have a career in architecture, then this is the book to start. So yes, that's the major flaw of it. The adventures, as I said, are not that exciting, and they're not in great detail either. It's such a way that the dungeon master or game master or whoever you want to call them will have a lot of work and has to put in a lot of work. It's hardly seemed worth it if you ever bought this for the full price they spec it on, which I freely admit I got for a bargain price way back when Virgin Megastore in Cardiff they put in a sale on a lot of the role playing stuff. So I managed to get this for £1. Crazy, isn't it? I mean, I don't know exactly how much it is worth now, but it's such a long time ago, so the prices, you probably paid about £10 maybe, maybe more in 1988, which was a lot of money back then. So this may be worth about £30 now if you bought it. I do know that they're fetching quite high prices on eBay, and I'm not going to sell this anyway, purely simply because my father written in there, and as long as it's dead, but it's one of the only things I've got of him, of him, if you know what I mean. So I'm keeping this sort of a memory to him, even though he did ruin the value of the model, or the adventure book. But there you go, that's the way things happen. So overall, it's a good book for the sort of details you put in there, and it's up to the usual standards that I.C.E put out back in the day. There's always assured of very high quality products from them, and this is no different. The only problem is I don't think it's that useful in terms of wanting to have adventures in the city itself. Not unless you have people who glory in the details of buildings, going to touristy type efforts. So I can imagine adventurers from the very, very far east coming to Minas Tirith and painting what they see, like the Japanese tourists would normally do in London or Cardiff, I come to think of it, or anywhere else. So it's not that useful in that respect. But it's exciting and maybe a bit different to have something about Minas Tirith in your campaign, or maybe even have this as a curio in your collection. So that's it. But thank you very much for listening. I hope you have the rest of the month now. It's been a good one, and hopefully we'll be getting summer too. So rock on.